Action. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are continuing our new journey here, going through Daśa-Mūla Tattva, these 10 fundamental principles of the conception of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we reached verse number 3. So Suvasini, do you want to chant that verse for us?
Okay. Haristvekam tattvam vidhi shiva suresha pranamito yet evedam brahma prakriti rahitam tat thanu maha paratma tasyamsho jagat anugato vishwajanaka savai radha kanto nava jalada kantischit udayaha. Analysis. Hari, Sri Hari, 2, only. Vidhi Shiva Suresha Pranamitaha, prostrated unto by Brahma, Shiva and Indra. Ekam Tattvam is the singular supreme truth. Yet Brahma, Brahman, which is Prakriti Rahitam, devoid of potency. Idam eva, that is, Tat Tanu Mahaha, the brilliance of Sri Hari's form. Paratma, the super soul. Vishwajanaka, creator of the universe. Jagat Anugataha, who has entered the universe. Tasyam Shaha is only a plenary portion of Sri Hari. Sa, that Sri Hari, Navajalada Kanti, of the hue of a fresh rain cloud. Chidudayaha, of divine form. Radha Kanta is the beloved of Sri Radha. So translation, Sri Hari, unto whom Brahma, Shiva and Indra offer the prostrate obeisances, is the singular supreme truth. The non-differentiative neutral Brahman is simply the brilliance of Sri Hari's form. The super soul, Paramatman, the universal creator who has entered the universe, is just a plenary portion of Sri Hari. That Sri Hari is bodily hue of the fresh rain cloud, is our divine darling of Sri Radha. You're muted, Vishaka Didi.
Thank you. So I think what might be helpful is if we review the points which we've gone through, right? So we're going through these 10 points. So in the first 2 verses, maybe we can go up. So the first verse is this summary, right, of the 10 principles in one verse. And then the second verse, this point, Amnaya Praha Tattvam, right? This is being established, that Amnai, that revealed knowledge, establishes what is true, that which is descending from a higher plane. This is the only reliable source of truth, of knowledge, the highest source. So this is being discussed in the second. Then what is it that revealed truth discusses, lays out? That is being told in the following verses. Then the first of those is Harim Iha Paramam, right? We can go back. And it's also helpful, this I'm finding revealed truth is a helpful reference because we have that first overview verse, which is summarizing the 10, and it's a very clear translation. So that's a helpful reference as you're going through this. And I can also pull that up here, actually, that could be helpful. So then this next verse, the second verse is, I'm getting confused. All these numbers. So the first verse is a summary verse. And then the second verse is describing Amnai Prahatatvam, right? That revealed knowledge coming in divine succession of gurus. This establishes perfect knowledge, highest knowledge, the truth, reliable truth. And then the third verse, which we just came to, is establishing the next point, which is Harim Iha Paramam. Krishna is supreme. Hari is supreme. Right? This is the point that's being. So these great gods, Brahma, Shiva, Indra, who are worshipped in the Vedic culture, right? Highly, saying, making clear here, they are giving their pranam, they are giving their respects unto Sri Hari, unto the Lord. So they are deferring to him, right? In other words, he is this, they're recognizing him as the singular supreme truth. And then it's also laying out, kind of like in Brahma Samhita style, Brahman is his, like addressing all of these different entities which are normally considered worshipped as supreme by different sections of the Vedic followers. Like, what is their actual position in relation to Sri Krishna, Sri Hari? So that Brahman, who's also worshipped widely, he is simply the brilliance of Sri Hari's form. He's his halo. He's the effulgence that surrounds his divine body. And then Paramatma, also worshipable, particularly by the yogis, the super soul. That is one part of the Lord. That is one of his expansions. And who is our divine darling with the bodily hue of a fresh rain cloud? That is Sri Hari. Jai Devi Shakti Devi. So this is the point being established here. Actually, I think it would be helpful if I brought up a copy of this translation and revealed truth. Prema Dharma Library. Here we are. So we've now been through these first 2 points in our reading of the Daśa-Mūla Tattva. I should back to what happened? Where am I? Okay. Daśa-Mūla, here we go. Okay, so then we can go on to verse number 4. Which is covering that he is omnipotent. This is the next point that is going to be addressed in this verse. He's omnipotent. He's full of all Shakti, all potency. So I will read this. Padakya Shakti Apita Dapi Sasve Mahimani Stito Jivakyam Swam Achid Abhihitam tam tripadikam Swatan checha shaktim sakala vishaye pirana pado vikada dhyai shunya padama purusho yam vijayate. And now break down, this is more or less a word for word. Sa, that Supreme Personality. And Sa is something you'll come across, it can just mean like he, so referring to him, that Supreme Personality. Apritag, so that, where is that word coming up? Here. Shakti Apritag. It's not coming up immediately. Where?
First line, yeah.
First line, where?
Third word, yeah.
The third, where I don't see it, Didi. You can see. Oh, here, Sa, of course, right. It's missing the Visarga because of the Sandhi. Okay, yeah, here, Sa. Thank you, Didi. So that Supreme Personality, apritagapi, despite being non-different, prikyaya shakti, from the transcendental potency, shakti, stita, and that stita is a word that you'll come across fairly often in Sanskrit verses. Stita, situated, sway mahimani, in his intrinsic glorious form, swatantra icha, in his sweet will, prerana pada, perpetually casting forth, sakala vishaye, into all matters, tam shaktim, that potency, chipadikam, of threefold nature, jivakyam, the jiva potency, swam, his personal divine potency, achit abhihitam, and the maya potency known as mundane, yam padama purusha, this supreme personality, vikadadhyaya shunya, immutable, vijayate. Oh, Giridhari Prabhu, you're accidentally scribbling on our text. But we appreciate your enthusiasm. You could underline if you like, but scribbling is not helpful. You're unlocking the tools of the Zoom screen share and learning them. Vikadadhyaya shunya, immutable, vijayate, ever presides in his glory. Okay. So now we can read the proper translation. Although he is inseparable from his inconceivable divine potency, he remains independent by his sweet will. He perpetually activates all that be by his divine potency in three ways. One, the potency, so these are his three principal potency. The potency of the innumerable, distinct spiritual bodies, spiritual particles or souls. So that's referring to us, the Jiva Shakti, right? Also known as Tatastha Shakti. Separated parts. Two, his personal potency, superior spiritual potency. And three, the illusory potency, Maya Shakti. So the Maya Shakti, the material energy, material potency, Chit Shakti, the spiritual potency, and the Tatastha Shakti or Jiva Shakti, the Shakti which is of a very finite nature and of limited power, and on the margin between these two energies, right, with the choice to participate in either. But inherently, we are of that higher nature, although we have some element of fallibility, of weakness about us. And so we have the propensity to enter that lower plane, although it is actually against our nature. And these are all his energies. They all belong to him. They're part of him. And of course, the Achincha Beda Bed conception comes in. You're inconceivably one with and different, all of these energies. Or at least in the case of the separated parts of ourselves and the Maya potency. Despite doing all this, he is personally, in all respects, eternally resplendent as the immutable supreme truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. So this last line is kind of interesting. Maybe Suvasini Didi or Jayadev could say something on this. Because this is an area I always struggle with, but I feel like this is kind of this is kind of like, I don't want to say jab, or we could say a repartee to the Vivartavad conception of Shankaracharya, right? Because Shankaracharya, I believe that's what the Vivartavad conception is, right? That they have this idea that the Supreme Brahman enters into, because the Shankar conception is that we are all God, right? That we are all the absolute. We are all God, And so then the question rises, oh, well, right now it looks like you're, you're eating McDonald's and you have to go to the toilet and and all these other things, so you don't look like you're Sarva Shaktiman, you're full of all potency, Then this is how they answer that sometimes this Supreme Brahman can come under the influence of the mundane energy, become transformed, right? But if the absolute is truly absolute, how is that possible? That fallibility won't be there. So he's saying here that although there's like some connection, Bhaktivinoda is saying, although there's some connection of the absolute with these lower, more fallible energies, he himself always remains perfect and resplendent as this immutable supreme truth. So those are my thoughts on this line. Suvasini Didi or Jayade, do you want to make some comment on that?
I can only say, like, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, it's like, this is Maya, is my potency, right? It is like, and Daivihi Esham Gunamayi, right? It's Mama Maya Durateya, right? So it is his potency. It is not like, but it is under his control, right? Then we also saw in Brahma Samhita, right? Maya, but that. So it cannot, it is not that Brahman can come under the influence of Maya. It's just that Maya is working under his will.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. Mama Maya Durateya, right?
Yeah.
She's my Maya. She belongs, she's working for me. Jaideep, are you available, or maybe he's working? Okay, we can continue. Maybe we can invite Giridhari Prabhu. Would you like to chant this next verse, Prabhu?
Okay, number 5.
Yes.
Savai hladiniascha pranaya vikritir hladana ratas tatha samvikchati prakatita raho bhava vasitaha taya shri sandinya krita vishada ta dhamma kaye rasambo dao mangno rajarasa vilasa vijayate. Analysis. So Vai is indeed that supreme personality. Hladana Rataha is always deeply absorbed. Pranaya Vritehe, in loving emotion. Hladinyascha, of the Hladinisha potency. Tatha, and thus. Samvit Shakti Prakatita Rahobhava Vasita, of the nature of being ever ecstatic in his heart's love made manifest by the Samvit potency. Vrajarasa Vilasi, the enjoyer of the ecstatic pastimes of Vraj. Krita Vishadata Dhamma Nikaye, in Sri Hari's holy abodes, headed by Sri Vrindavan manifest. Taya Sri Sandhya, by that illustrious Sandhini potency. Krishna is Krishna. Magna, merged. Rasambodao, in the ocean of ecstasy. Vijayate, presides in his grace. And translation. The personal potency of the Supreme Lord is comprised of 3 basic potencies. Hladini, the ecstatic. Samvit, the perpetual. And Sandhini, the existential. Sri Krishna's heart is always deeply in the loving emotion of his ecstatic potency. And in his intrinsic nature, nature is to be ever newly ecstatic by his internal emotion made manifest by his perpetual potency. In his holy abodes headed by Sri Vrindavan.
Sorry, I'm just correct you. It's perceptual potency. It's an important difference, because you said perpetual, meaning like
perpetual. I did say perpetual. Perceptual. Okay, let me read that again.
perception.
Right. And his intrinsic nature is to be ever newly ecstatic by his internal emotion made manifest by his perceptual potency. In his holy abodes headed by Sri Vrindavan, which are manifest by his existential potency, Sri Krishna, that whimsical enjoyer of the sweetness of his Braj pastimes, resides graciously merged in the eternal ocean of joy.
Okay, very nice, very nice. So this is nice, and I'm seeing kind of like a systematic development here. So this is this verse here is describing the next point, Rasubdim. He is an ocean of rasa, right? This is the next point. He is an ocean of rasa. So now we're entering the plane of rasa. And I'm seeing that there's a nice development here in the sense that in the previous verse, Bhaktivinoda is speaking kind of more generally about the different energies of the Lord. But now in this next one, there's a more refined breakdown of like subcategories within, going more specifically, zooming into the spiritual potency, the chit potency. What are the different what is the breakdown of that? What are the sub potencies of that? And so then I could probably come up with a better word, sub potency, but you get the idea. Then there are three principal spiritual potencies within the spiritual potency. So Hladini, ecstatic, Samvit, the perceptual, Sandini, the existential. And this is quite a profound topic, and there's a lot of discussion on this, and different words are used, right? So, you know, and we also, Srila Sridhar Maharaj has also discussed how this Hladini, so this means like the joy-giving potency. Another way it's put is what was the other way terminology Parama Guru Maharaj uses? Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, Jnana, Bala, Kriya, right? Knowledge, strength, and play, Kriya. So this Hladini is the joy-giving principle, ecstasy, play, love. And Srimati Radharani, she is the embodiment of that potency. We can also add. And then Samvit is referring to the plane, also Sat, Chit, and Ananda, right? One way Srila Sridhar Maharaj has framed this is like there are three principal elements within the divine potency, right? So Sat, Chit, Ananda also fits in with this framework. You know, so Samvit is the perceiving, cognition, the knowing, consciousness principle. And that is represented by Krishna. And then Sandini is the willing, the strength, the existential, the existence principle. And that is represented by Baladev, Balaram. And this phrase is very nice. His intrinsic nature is to be ever newly ecstatic. I love that. It's always fresh. It's always new. He's a dynamo, right? And this ultimately brings us to the manifestation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? You know, Krishna seeking after his own self, discovering his own self, and taking on the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani, you know, as a result of that search. and experiencing, ever fresh, waves of joy. And it's very nice, beautiful the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur has articulated in all of this and demonstrated how these different energies express themselves. So Vrindavan is made manifest by the existential potency, existing potency. His internal emotion is made manifest by the perceptual, perceiving potency. And he's always deep in the loving emotion of his ecstatic ecstasy potency. Very nice. Does anyone else want to make any comment or question? Should we move on? Suvasini, anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing.
And welcome to those who have been joining. In the meantime, Marie, and also Dana, Jayadev, of course. Okay, then we'll go on to verse 6, which is elaborating upon the next point, that the souls are his separated parts. This is the next point, which is going to be discussed in the Daśa-Mūla. So, Marie, do you want to have a go here?
Yeah, I can do that. Spulinga ridagnar eva chit ananvo jiva nikaya hare suryai pritag api tu tad beda vishayaha vashe maya yasya prakriti patir evashvara iha sajivo mukto pi prakriti vasya yoga svagunataha. As sparks are situated on the periphery of blazing fire, similarly, the unlimited souls, who are atomic particles of consciousness, are as rays of the original sun. And I can't read below that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we were reading the word for word, but I guess you
Oh,
don't.
were we? Oh, yeah, I can do that if you want.
Well, maybe it's nice to just help us absorb it.
The original son of consciousness, Sri Hari. Despite being inseparable from Sri Hari, those unlimited souls are eternally separate. The eternal distinction between the Lord and the soul is this: that person who by his specific nature is the master of material nature, he is the Lord, and one who, even in his liberated state, is by nature prone to be subjugated by the illusory nature. He is the jiva. So that comes from Spulinga Eva, like sparks, Ridhagana, from a blazing fire, Jiva Nikanaya, the unlimited jivas or souls, Sit Ananvo, of the nature of atoms and consciousness, Suryasa Eva Hare, of the son of all consciousness, Sri Hari, Apritag Api, despite being inseparable, two, yet, Tad Beta Vishaha, eternally separate from Sri Hari, Iha, in this world, Yasya Vasye Asti, whose subordinate is Maya, the Maya potency, Parantu Ya Svayam, yet who is personally Prakriti Pati Ishvara, the Lord of material nature, Sa jiva, that jiva, despite being liberated, prakriti vasya yoga, is prone to be subjugated by the mayika or illusory potency, svagunata, by dint of his nature.
Okay, great. So a couple interesting points here. I'd love to hear what you all think of these. Here, those unlimited souls are eternally separate. Despite being inseparable from Sri Hari, those unlimited souls are eternally separate. So, now what's being said here? Is that there's no hope for us? Hang on, I feel like we've been cheated.
No, I think that's where the hope is, though, because if there's no separation at all, you would never know your relationship. So the only way to know a relationship with the divine is to be, to some degree, separated.
Hmm. So this, I'm looking at this again, and actually, yes, I mean, yeah, it sounds like Marie has grasped the point here, which is that the Achincha Beta Bade conception is being indicated, right? The inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and difference. That's what's being referred to. Eternally inseparable, eternally one, and also eternally separate, distinct at the same time. But actually, and in this analogy, we have to say it's very helpful, isn't it? A spark of a fire, right? Or a ray of the sun is a very helpful, very, very helpful analogy. But actually, when I first read this, I was reminded of there's a verse in very, very curious verse, let's say, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, saying that there are only two types of souls, right? Those who are nitya mukta, eternally liberated, and those who are nitya bada, means eternally bound. So there are the eternally liberated and the eternally conditioned souls. Right? And so when you read that, then you kind of jump a little bit. You're like, well, hang on, does that mean there's no hope for me? No, I'm just in this position, so I'll be here eternally. But then it goes on to explain in Chaitanya Charitamrita that, by the grace of, sadhu and shastra, the grace of the saints and the scriptures, those nitya bada, eternally bound souls, jivas, they have the possibility of becoming nitya mukta, eternally liberated. And it's an interesting thing, and because when you say eternal, then it makes it sound like that's the final story, right? But actually, it's just something difficult to conceive with our current limitations, right? Because eternality, it's both are eternal states, right? Whether you're in one or the other, they're both eternal states. So, but because we're in one eternal state doesn't mean there's not the possibility of entering a different eternal state. Okay, so then let's go on then. So then the next point here, they are either covered by material energy. So we're going to hear some more detail on our own condition, being conditioned souls. Let's see where we are. So who would like to read? Sudevi, do you want to read that? How are you doing with Sanskrit?
I can try.
Okay, great. That's what it's all about.
Patai hinan nija sukha paran Krishna vimukan. Hare maya dandyan guna niglayati tata stule linge dvividha varanaha klesha nikara. Mahakamalanai nayati patitan swaga nirayo. Analysis. The Svarupatai in sorry, it's really early. My eyes aren't working yet. Hinan, those who have forgotten their intrinsic nature. Krishna Vimukan, who are averse to Sri Krishna. Nija Sukha Paran, for their selfish pleasure. Maya Dandyan, deserve to be punished by the Maya potency. Hare of Sri Hari. Ataeva, therefore, Kalayati, Maya captivates them. Guna Nigada Jalai, by the chains of Sattva, Raja, and Tamaguna. Tata, and thus, Dvi Vidha Varanai, by the two types of covering. Stulai Lingaha, I don't know that word, of the gross and subtle bodies. Klesha Nikai, by multiple tribulations. Maha Karmalanai, by severe bondage in karma. Nayati Patitan, takes the fallen souls. Svaga Nirayo, to heaven and hell. Translation. By his innate nature, the soul is Krishna's faithful servant. The fallen souls have forgotten that innate nature and, bent on fulfilling their selfish pleasures, have become averse to Sri Krishna. They deserve punishment, and the Maya potency of the Lord takes them captive in the chains of the illusory modes of illumination, activation, and stultification, and leads them to heaven and hell by binding them within the dual envelopes of the gross and subtle bodies, afflicting them with various worldly tribulations by the force of overwhelming karmic reactionary bondage.
So this is, we have some heavy English here. Scary English usage here. And I also feel that, yeah, I'm looking at the Sanskrit and this is all totally added in. Like this phrase, deserve to be punished. That's not, they're saying that Maya punishes them. Dandya. So danda means a stick, and it also represents punishment. So Maya punishes, it doesn't say they deserve to be punished. You know, that's been thrown in by the translator here. Not phrased in quite such a harsh way. Like they're being corrected, we can say, you know, because of their engagement in selfishness. It's, you know, naturally that needs to be punished, that is punished. And bent, I mean, this is brilliant, isn't it? Bent on fulfilling their selfish desires that become averse to Krishna, they deserve punishment. Not very friendly, the way it's being phrased. And then also, I mean, in case anyone wasn't clear, this illumination, activation, stultification, these are referring to the three modes of nature, right? Goodness, passion, and ignorance. So it's kind of drawing out the way in which they affect us, right? The mode of goodness has this tendency to illuminate rajas to activate in the mode of passion, stultification, mode of ignorance, and like a type of stupor, lower state. And then according to the karma which we are creating, then we're moving right through heaven and hell and experiencing all sorts of bodies and experience and planes of life, so on. So forgetfulness, this is a point that is sometimes emphasized in the scriptures. Gulia tomade samsare asya pena navidevi. I forgot you. This is a song of Bhakti Vinod. I forgot you, my Lord, and I acquired so many types of misery and suffering. And there's this how does that verse go? The famous verse in Bhagavatam. You remember Subhasini Didi, that how does it begin? That I can't remember right now. But bring,
Sorry, I don't know which one you're referring to. Not sure.
it's quoted fairly often by gurus. You do know the verse for sure. Srila Sridhar Maharaj quotes it quite a bit, and that phrase is there. Dvitiya binivesh.
Yeah, Bayam Dvitiya Bine Vishitaha Syat. Yeah, Isha Tapedasya Viparyayo Smriti. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Tanmayayato Buddha Abhajetum Tasyake Sham Guru Devadatma. Yeah.
yes,
Bayam.
yeah. So bayam, this word fear is the word. Bayam dviti biniveshatasya. So by turning away from Krishna, by having some secondary interest, perceiving some secondary interest, then all the trouble comes from that, beginning with fear. Scarlett has her hand raised. Please, Scarlett.
Yes, thank you for today's class. Something I can't understand when it says I've forgotten you or we forgotten you. It almost sounds like I will talk about myself then. I have forgotten, choose to forget him when for instance, if someone has been through very much difficulty since childhood, doesn't know from day to day what the day going to be, and have been very much, how to say, trying to deal with day-to-day life, how could such a person be accused that this person has forgotten God? That I can understand. It can't be chosen when someone or I try to do everything I can to live by principle of being good person, don't hurt anyone, and so on and so on. Still, I choose to forget God. How could that be? I don't understand this. Because in the same time, I get to read so many places that Lord Krishna himself saying, I give the forgiveness, forgetness, that you forget that he controls everything. Anything it's happened, it's by his sanction. That is the way he wants it. And Maya, we know that Maya, I have learned anyway, that Maya is like helping him and doing, devoting to him and doing everything that Maya do it for Krishna because Krishna wanted that way. That I can't understand for myself. I can't understand how is it my choice? I didn't choose to forget God. I have always believed that there is a creator, that there is a God. I have always believed in it. The only thing that I never knew that God has name. And you can give the name, and there is the name that you are going to read in Bhagavad Gita, for instance. I never know that. But when I learn about it, okay, then I understand, then I do it. But still, when did I choose to forget him? When did I choose to do that? Where can I read about that? Yes, I have done forgetting. But something I have learned, it's somehow there are so many entities, so many rishis, so many Brahma goes around and get angry very, very, very fast for minute things and curse others. And the curse do okay, as I mean, it's the curse has to happen, regardless that this person did something that didn't think about it or do it by bad thinking or bad feeling or for to be mean or anything. It happened just accidentally, but still got cursed, and the curse has to happen. And that I can't understand either. Why was not any how to say any justice in the way to say no, you were too angry, you were too harsh in your curse, you shouldn't do that, and this person who has gotten cursed shouldn't go through that curse. You know what I mean? So I'm very bewildered in my head. I don't know how to think, how to understand it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you brought up several points there, actually. We'll
They
do
are separate. They are separate, but still they are same. You know what I mean?
related. Yeah, they're related. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, one thing that we have to remember is that there's a difference between choices that we're making now in the course of our lives and future lives, and the like fundamental choice that we made at the beginning of time, right? Or our time, although that is something not really possible to conceive. See, when Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, you have to remember there's always the element of free will, right? So yes, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, I cause remembrance, forgetfulness in persons. That's speaking in more of a general way in the course of our lives, right? But this forgetfulness or turning away from Krishna, that was a choice that we made, when we were presented with that choice, right? When we first came into being, that was a fundamental choice that we made. And yes, it may be that now by grace, by higher grace, some awareness, some consciousness has come to us and we are trying to move towards God. But we must remember this current life that we are experiencing now, this is just one amongst many innumerable lives, millions, billions, innumerable lives. So yes, now we may be taking that course towards God, but in previous, at a previous time, in previous lives also, we were turning away, and so it is a very difficult pill to swallow. It really is, and it may appear insensitive, but this is the teaching, and it is also a logical thing, that there is some cause, behind all of this, and that we are creating these things for ourselves. And it may not be in this life, but in previous lives. Karma is a very complex web and it's not possible to play it all out in one life. Like everything that we're doing, it's part of this very intricate, complex web of action and reaction, right? And that's playing out over many lifetimes. In regards to the point about the rishis, who actually, I'll quote Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who are the rishis? I mean, like, with all due respect, in comparison to what is the highest gift of the Vedic presentation, the gift of Srimad Bhagavatam, in comparison to a Vaishnava, what to speak of a Gaudiya Vaishnava, Krishna Bhakta, a rishi is not even part of the conversation. No, the rishi isn't even a part of the game, to be honest. So we're not actually so concerned about the rishis. The rishis are not representing absolute truth by a long shot. And then why they can get so angry, that's their fault. That is their limitation. And in regards to that person who was attacked, there's some web of karma that's either going to play out or is playing out or has played out, so that's all going to go on as it should in the plane of action and reaction. And it's not something that we, I don't feel it's so relevant to our discussion. This is why, to be honest, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's easy to get lost, right? Because Srimad Bhagavatam is kind of dealing with a very broad, the conversation very broad in Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are some elements in there which aren't, purely in the line of pure devotion. Like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's all the distilled essence, right? But perhaps that's where some of this confusion's coming in. So we can keep that perspective. And I hope what I've said is helpful, Scarlett. And I know it is a sensitive issue, right? Because I can understand if someone's facing suffering in this world, it's difficult to face that truth, right? That this is all.
With all due respect, it's not only that. I study a lot now. I read a lot. You won't believe how much I read, and all my reading, I just get to learn more and more about the curses that is happening and what it led to this curse to lead to another and another and another and another. And that's why I'm very bewildered, and I don't understand how could I be, for instance, Dhritarashtra's Pandava's brother, there were two brothers, and one died and one was blind. And his wife cursed his brother Shakuni and say that may your kingdom never feel peace in ever. And when I study where was his kingdom, it was Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, at least what I remember, has never have peace in the country. Never has happened. All the time is attacked from many ways. So she goes and curse him, but the curse affect the whole man. All the people in that country or in that kingdom. You understand what I mean? So when someone curses that way, and she was very much doing austerity and was very chaste woman, and that's why her curse was very strong. And he cursed his brother Shakuni, and look what has still going on. The Afghanistan was his kingdom. Shakuni's kingdom. Look what has happened. So that's what I don't understand. Why should it continue that way? Why shouldn't the curse cut away in some times? You know what I mean?
You know what my honest advice is, Scarlett? Stop reading Mahabharata. We're not about Mahabharata. Like
I
that's
didn't read it in Mahabharata. This incident, I didn't read it in Mahabharata. I read it in another way, but I understand what you mean.
you see, the thing is there, that's all of this is dealing with the Saguna plane. We're not interested in this. This is a lower discussion. We're interested in the Nirguna plane, the transcendental plane. This is all dealing with this is all happening in the reactionary world, the karmic reactionary world that is affected by the modes of material nature. This is all a lower plane and a lower discussion. This is Krishna consciousness is beyond that. We are not about Mahabharata, you know, like sometimes it's fun to get into Mahabharata because, you know, it's connected with the Vedic culture. It's giving some background of Krishna's Leela, background of Bhagavad Gita, right? And like in a Vedic sense, the principles of Dharma are being discussed. So it can be helpful, but actually, for the most part, it has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, you know? So I would say if you're getting confused by that, just avoid it, because that's not what this is about. No, it's not what this is about. It would just add unnecessary complication. No.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I would say. Like read like the books of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the books of Srila Govinda Maharaj, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Even again, Bhagavatam it can be tricky. You can get lost in Bhagavatam because there's a lot of these like kind of lower matters which are discussed, you know, for historical reasons or whatever, but they're not dealing with the essence, the pure essence. So yeah, I would say this is like an unnecessary spider's nest that can take root in someone's brain. No, let's save ourselves from all that. If you're gonna read Mahabharata, read it like a story, you know, detach yourself. You know, read it in a light way. You know, and fortunately our gurus and Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, Mahaprabhu, they're giving us something higher. You know, we can save ourselves a lot of trouble by the grace of our gurus, a lot of headache.
Again, it was not Mahabharata I read it. I read it in Purana. I
Okay,
read everything.
Purana, same thing, same thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Puranas. Yeah, again, like it's easy to get lost in the Vedas, you know. And we have some thoughtful comments from Marie here. Read Mahabharata primarily to understand the imagery, but not for information. Yeah, perhaps something like that. It's giving like a nice background, you know. But in terms of like like the Puranas and Mahabharata, they were actually composed for like simple-minded persons who like stories and just to kind of get them into some type of culture of Dharma, you know, and a lot of it is dealing with basic principles of Dharma. So kind of like a way of getting your foot in the door type of thing, getting on the ladder. But yeah, the Puranas, it's the same category. For you know, largely, not only. Technically, Bhagavatam is a Purana. Sometimes there's the Mahapurana, right, dealing with histories and stories, ancient tales, but Bhagavatam is also giving a very, you know, very deep, very profound philosophical, ontological presentation of the nature of truth. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is distilling that even further. So yeah, I would say avoid the Puranas. Don't need to go to Mahabharata, you know, stick with the essence. Okay, well, kind of come to the end of our meeting. Does anyone, thank you for your questions, Scarlett. I'm always happy to get into these topics, create some clarity, right, on all this, because it's a mad, wild world. It's a jungle. It's a jungle out there, you know, it's a Vedic jungle. So we're fortunate we have the shelter of our gurus. save us a lot of trouble. Sometimes the way I think of it is like our gurus have like distilled everything down to like this little candy that we can just swallow. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Kind of like say like imagine like billions of funding is put into producing some like throat medicine, right? And there you've got all these like brilliant scientists and chemists, and they're doing all this research, and there's so much information behind, like, you know, like volumes and volumes of research has gone into, an explanation is there and behind like producing this nice little candy that we can just suck on, you know, and it's pleasant, you know, like orange flavored candy sweet, you know? Like they've done all the research, you know, they've got all the information, why this works and why that doesn't work, how this compares with that, how this squares up with that. And they can give all the information. And it's helpful for us to have some of that information too, but we don't need to go too much into it all. But this is what it comes down to. Like that's what they're giving us. And this is the way that you can taste the sweetness, you know. Thank you all so much for your wonderful company. Subhasini, do you want to add any last words?
No, they did everything wonderful. Whatever you said is very helpful. Very good. Thank you.
And Divya Shakti Didi, any words of wisdom for our group? Oh, you're muted. Ask her to unmute.
It's just Dandavad, Didi. It's just really nice to be here with all of you. And that was really good what you said to Scarlett. I was also thinking she's reading too many books, and just stick with the basics. Things will be a little bit more clearer and safer, you know, so that was really, really nice. I had to take a phone call. That's why I missed a little bit of it, but yeah, I was hearing and I was like, and then I understood what you were talking about, both of you were talking about. So, but anyway, I'm very grateful for this, and I will try to keep up. Unfortunately, my attention span isn't so 100% because this class happens at the same time that I get to try to do some little service. So I have to try to focus on both things. So please forgive my offenses, and I'll be looking forward to see you guys again.
Will we see you at the Govinda Mela, Divya Shakti Didi?
I'm not too sure. I'm really not too sure. I just have to wait and see.
Okay.
Not too sure. I'd really like to go to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little late now because that's this weekend, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Right.
So anyway, we'll see what happens. Just on the wait and see list right now.
Well, we're happy to have your darshan via the Zoom platform.
Well, I wish I could put in some more, you know, but you and Subhasini Didi are just right on the dime. It's so beautiful to hear from you always. Very, you know, absorbed, and feel very honored.
Jai Divya Shakti Didi. Sue Devi, tell us, was it worth getting up at 2:30 in the morning? Or what time is it again? Oh, Sue Devi? Yeah. Share some of your thoughts. You're getting up early, the middle of the night there. What's your motivation? Was it worth it?
Yeah, my internet dropped out for a second.
Oh.
I'm feeling a bit tired, but absolutely worth it. So beautiful to be in association with you all, and very inspiring, and I definitely need this in my life and in my heart. Yeah, so thank you all so much.
Hi, beautiful, very inspiring for us. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Sincere seekers ki jai. Sankirtan ki jai.
Right.
Lord Premanand. Haribo.
Shaka Didi ki jai.
Jai.
Devi Shakti Didi ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai.
Right.
Jai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Bol.
Thank you for today.
Jai Gurudev.